like one that's probably just popped in on their phone and gone, oh my god, it's someone live, quick run. But there you go. I'm going to go and have a look at these close up and talk about it while I'm at it. I've also got some other bits and pieces down here, some hot water and some sort of Dungeons & Dragons signage type things that I'm going to put together. So I'll switch over. So there we go. Yeah, so in this pot here, I put some hot water in there that's rapidly cooling, but I was trying to straighten out one of these pieces of the Raging Heroes models. I think water's gone a bit, oh, it's fallen off. Yeah, so their resin, as well as being shiny, it's also very fragile, and I thought that was warm enough to sort of bend that straight, but it certainly wasn't. So that's a bit of extra repair I'm going to have to do. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, these Raging Heroes models, they look fantastic. If I get on close to one, here's one I prepared earlier. They do look rather nice, as you can see. Great levels of detail, great poses, like this one in particular. She's got, forget it, focus. She's got a kind of one leg going back, one leg going forward. And the way they build the torsos out, which I'll show you here, you get the legs plus typically this torso section that gives you that sort of flexibility to give them a slightly interesting stance. And then a couple of head options. There's one with a sort of bare face, and then the one with the sort of metal on the face there. So great models really, but just troublesome. As you can see, this one looks perfectly fine, doesn't it, to get a primer on there. Yeah, you can get a primer on there, fine. Whereas this one, which I built earlier, look at the shine off that. And that was the same batch that went through the engine degreaser, and it still came out super shiny, and this one even more so. This is a mega shine going off that, and you can just see the difference. And again, here's another one I just built earlier. And again, very matte piece of resin, and you can see quality wise, super sharp, not too shiny, but yeah, quality control wise, I don't know what they've done here. They've given me one that's made of some resin that's more greasy than you can imagine, and one that's a good batch that's going to paint well. Now I reckon they'd still be able to get a primer on there and paint it, but I know from experience I have another one that I started with a test, and I put a primer on and it just didn't grip on this greasy stuff in there. So yeah, bit annoying really. Oh, and in addition to this stuff, I have got here some in a pot, which I was just cleaning up some resin. I did actually try and wash another one of these to see whether that grease would come off, but as I say, they've been through engine degreaser, then hot soapy water and scrubbed, and they still came out looking, well, most of them came out looking like they're still too greasy to have paint adhere to them, but I'll see how it goes. I will still glue it together, prime it, and see if I can get some paint on it. So here's some other resin pieces. This is like an adventure signboard thing, and I've had it in my collection for ages. I think it's from a company called Gravelcast. If it's not Gravelcast, it's is it Zenith? Oh, I've got the maker here. Zealot. Yeah, Zealot Miniatures. They do a whole load of resin stuff, resin casting. They've recently done some Kickstarter townsfolk that were really good. And I tend to purchase a lot of their sort of terrain pieces like this, which I use for Dungeons & Dragons. And yeah, I've just got some soapy water in there. I'm making a big mess with it, but just what I tend to do with this is scrub away to get any release agent off. Which I was doing and I had done with the Raging Heroes models here, but fortunately didn't do a good job. And yeah, there's a few components to this sort of adventuring notice board. There's that a bit on the top. There's a base piece, but what I've done with the base piece is sort of separate it out because I didn't want the whole section of the base piece. It's basically one of the little posts goes in there. And what else have we got? There are some other sections of it which are getting too small to scrub. This piece, and then two other wooden pieces that go onto there. I don't know if I'll need both wooden pieces because I don't want to make a really tall sign. Yeah, so this is the happy kind of stuff I tend to do if I'm preparing resin, is clean it up a bit, and then actually that needed a bit more cleanup on there, I can see. Just a little bit extra junk on the top of that piece of block of wood. And obviously kids do this at home if you want to lose a finger. Use soapy water and a hugely sharp blade at the same time. Perfect for losing the odd finger. That one needs a bit cut off it too. I haven't done my full cleanup. So yeah, if you're joining at any time or you're watching this, this is just a live session of me. I'm on Twitch and I'm on the Facebook Dungeons & Dragons mini group, so hello to anybody that's on the Dungeons & Dragons mini group. And I'm basically cleaning up and painting some models, breaking them while I'm at it as well. And my intention is probably... that's got a bit of random junk on it too. Yes. My intention is to probably build this sign up and then glue it together, make a base for it. And it's an adventuring kind of sign, the sort of thing that a group of Dungeons & Dragons party might see outside an inn, with a bunch of signposts up along the lines of Goblin Horde found in mine 10 miles away, Dwarven Lord happy to share some gold if you clear out the goblins that have been found on a level 3. They have a particularly big ogre henchman. Can you clear it out? Reward. Yeah, so that's what you get on that post signage. And so I've had it for ages. I've never really intended to use it in a game, but I probably will. And it's a nice piece. So as you can see, it's a bit of a mess because, as I was saying earlier, I've basically had one of those moments where I picked up a whole lot of old stuff that I've looked at, and in particular, as I said, these ones which I was so disappointed in, these Raging Heroes models having that oil on them that's really hard to get off, even with engine degreaser, hot soapy water, the lot. And so I thought, I'll dig them back out, I'll put them together, I'll give them a chance. I don't know if anybody else suffers that when you do a project. You get something that's really disappoints you that you've put and invested into, and you don't get anywhere with a supplier, and you've got a bunch of models you're not sure what to do with. I guess I could sell them. You then sort of park them and think, I'll move on to something else, come back to those, but you never quite get that mojo back, at least I didn't, to start work on them again. So rather haphazardly thrown together bits and pieces. So yeah, so I was thinking with this signpost, which I'll do like little adventure type notes on those parchment bits of paper on there perhaps. It's got quite nice wooden, if I go zoom into that a bit better. It's got a nice wood background with the adventurer kind of notes, party needed, but also kind of a interesting Celtic kind of bit that could be done, a kind of, and a fleur de lis there, which could be done in a sort of brassy colour. Also, I've got other bits and pieces. I've got a brazier type thing, which I think I'd put beside it, just as a sort of a kind of little vignette, really, to present it. And also, I've got an old Dungeons and Dragons base, which is very flat. I thought that would be ideal to sort of base it on. So let me move some of these things out of the way. I may get back to looking at these again, but very disappointed with the Raging Heroes. But nice models, as you can see. Another close-up of that lady there. You get the different head types, you get the torso, 2 arms, and the legs. These legs came as one piece. It does need some more cleanup. But such great motion and pose, and obviously it was a 3D model perhaps before they printed it. Nice. Yeah, so back onto the signage. I'm going to stick it on this base, and I'm trying to work out which way up this thing goes. So I imagine this post would fit on the back. Then you've got this, which I've snapped in two by accident, which is a kind of a cover up for the top, plus sort of fits on like a overhang. Would let the water sort of run off. Try and get that in view. And then on the back, construction wise, there's 2 posts, but I thought if I use both of these posts, it's going to just make this thing really tall, and yeah, it's probably just a bit too tall for me. I'm just quite happy with it being quite a low level post, particularly if I bring up I don't know, a miniature beside it. I was to sort of put the thing randomly together in my hand. We've got postage there. Yeah, even on that one, it's pretty big. And I think this is definitely Grabble Cast, which is an Etsy shop, and I think they're on eBay as well. I think they're Russian, so shipping tends to be quite expensive, but model-wise they're quite cheap. I think I'm going to put that on one post, because 2 of these posts together are going to look too tall, unless there's some other method to this madness. Yeah, and they come with this little extra piece that you can slot that in, so it gives it a bit of extra grip on there. Yeah, and I did clip this down a bit because this was a bit larger, and I felt like I only really needed it for that join on there to fix that together. So I'm going to start with the glue, why not? And I don't mind splurging on quite a lot since it's going to hold it up. And with regard to this base, where will I put it? Sort of towards the back perhaps? And if I was to put the brazier up against it. I had also this Privateer Press statue from the Circle Orboros faction. I had wondered about putting that on there because the designs in there sort of match the designs on the bottom of the board here, and I thought that would kind of look in theme, but perhaps not. Perhaps I'll just stick to the brazier and I'll do a kind of a base around there. There's probably a bit too much of the super glue. So a note on my super glue, I'm using this Gorilla Glue. It's like a gel, you shake it up, and they say with this Gorilla Glue, although you know I'm not sponsored in any way, they say that it's good because it has a kind of a resin in it that does mean that it dries nice and hard, but who knows, could just be marketing, but it's been working for me for a few years, so I like it. So, right. So the one thing I'm going to do though is, now that's drying there, now I've thought about it, I'm just going to pin this section on. So I've got a little pin vise go in there like that. I'm going to do that on that base section as well. Very messy job. What I might do is lock the focus just so that it stops getting the focus on the here we go, cutting into focus. Looks good to me. So yeah, there's my little pin vise and the hole I'm putting in there. Very unscientifically, just going for it. So how far have I gone in there? That's quite far. I'm going to use that. I'm going to get a bit of brass wire. This one looks a bit fat. Yeah, but it fits. So the way I do this, sort of very makeshift, I mean, most people probably know about pinning and things anyway, but if I can find my clippers, that is, I'll be a happy person. So I don't want to use my plastic clippers on this. There they are. So, rough old pair of cheap clippers which I use on these because I don't want to damage. Look, they've been ruined over the years. They've developed their own teeth. So just clipping in there so I know distance wise what I'm going to get. Clunk. And then I'm just going to put some glue in there. So I might decant out a bit of this glue onto a patch of card here. Cocktail sticks, you've got to have your cocktail sticks. Absolute, desperately needed requirement for miniature construction. So that's now in there. Follow that up. Now this is where it's a bit risky because of course I'm drilling into something that's still drying, but if I just hold on to the end of it I should be fine. And then probably just need to line things up with the way it's going to be. I'm just applying pressure so I know where to drill. Benefits of resin really, that you can just pin vise directly into it really quickly. There's no messing about. If I make this hole too deep, it's not a big deal. But let's check it. Yeah, that's definitely long enough. That matches my length down there. And I'll pick up some of that glue again from the back. Probably completely enough. So because this is the back of the sign that's going to glue onto, it's quite smooth. It doesn't have as much detail. That's probably the way it's come out of the casting. Houston, we have a connection. So that little bit of pinning would help, I think. I mean, it's it's not perfect around the back. I can clean that up later. Anyway, the sign's going to hide most of that away. Someone's going to tell me I'm doing this all wrong in terms of construction, but I think that's about fine. And as I was saying, height-wise, I don't know what. Maybe I don't know why you'd need two, because you'd have a massive, massive sign. I want it to look at least sort of sensible for a 28mm model to sort of stand up against. Or 30mm or 33mm, whatever the scale happens to be. My only question is to myself is, do I put these shingles all the way to the back, and so I kind of keep the two parts together? Where's the bit that broke? That side. So in a way they're covering then both the back of the model a bit and just tidying up that seam. Or do I just put them right over the front, overhanging, and leave that bit matching it? The problem with that is that I've had to clean that up, so there's some smoothness on the top. Kind of preferring to do it like that, I think. Yeah. Although it's not going to be a perfectly smooth operation. Yeah, leave a little bit of that wood on display behind, I think, a plank, and then fit that together like that. Looks good enough to me. So, with that in mind, I may as well glue the whole thing together and keep them sort of level. So no pinning needed here. As you can see, my pin job down there is a little bit sticky outy, but I can clean that up by just sort of scratching a bit of that off there. And again, I'm not really that worried about it. You're going to be looking at it mostly from the front as a terrain piece anyway. So get some of that remaining splurge of glue over here. I need a bit more glue. In amongst the mess. That's going to do. This is going to go on probably rock solid almost instantly. Let's see how I go. It's chunky. Look how fat that is. Arguably, scale-wise, it's a bit big really for 28mm, but since it's kind of representative token of something in the game, it's okay. As you can see there's my sort of rough thing there. I'm going to have to carve that down. When I say carve, probably just use a little bit of the old knife on there. I'm not completely happy along this top section, but I could have cleaned it up better. As I say, when I started this, if you've joined late or if you've popped in or watching this later on after it's been streamed to an audience of thousands, I can say clearly that it's a bodge and that I've just been grabbing things out of an old box that needed doing, this being one of them. And there you go. So let me see if I can just carve a little bit of this off and make it look like the wood sort of carved together. Honest, it was the builder. He'd done it real bad. Yeah, he's sort of obviously smoothing some of the detail out. Oops, it's the whole thing coming apart. And yeah, that's looking okay. Far from perfect, of course. Badly carved wood, badly drawn boy. Now looks a little bit like a badly cut pencil, end of a pencil or something. But what I will do is I've got some of this upside down putty, modelling white putty from AK Interactive. It's really going to come streaming out here. I'll smudge a tiny bit of that out. Get my cocktail stick together. And then just use that to mess things up around there a bit. This filler kind of dries in a as they say, carvable state, so it's really just trying to fill the line in. Although arguably you could say the builder constructed it with 2 bits of wood, but I want to make it look continuous. So just sort of rough and ready, put some of this on. And that will fill the groove, and then also I can scratch at it a bit to make it look like scratched up wood with a bit of scalpel work on there afterwards to tidy it up. And in the meantime, obviously, as I said, it sort of fills the gap as well. Well, that'll do for now. It's filled that gap. Are there any other gaps I need to worry about? Well, let's see what I need to do on the top. To make this work, I could end up with a bit of a gap around the back here. How much do I care about the back? Looking a bit uneven. I'll try and go on with one piece, a bit clumsy with 2. Yeah, I might get a little bit of styrene and put that in there. Grabbing some styrene. It's me now grabbing some styrene. Yes, so styrene rod. I've got a whole stack of it in different sizes. If I can find something that will just fill a gap, I will just put it up behind that. Some of those are looking a bit too. Oh, there we go. I think that's going to do. Look how scientifically I'm going to do it. Using the power of measurement, I'm going to simply line it along there and then clip it off. And clip a bit more off. Could have used my better clippers actually, which are hiding from me. Oh, there they are. That's a cleaner break. then it sort of fits together fine. That's going to work for me. Get some glue, stick it on there. It's about trying to get it done quick without too much mess. Styrene rod. That's going to work for me. My rate of super bodge. More glue needed. Just check that this is the right size to go on. It's not going to overhang the edges. I've lent everything into my, look at that, this is what you do with a really untidy workbench. Put that fantastic white putty onto just about everything that's sitting around here. Get rid of that spare styrene rod. Yeah, so I have a whole bag of this stuff. It's just whenever you need to fill a hole or something, it's handy stuff to use. Styrene strip, this is the evergreen models, that's the kind I normally get, and they do it in really small pieces too. Right, my mostly bodged together things coming on. What I'll do is just paint all that as wood and just wash it in there, so even though that's kind of on show, the white strip behind, I'm just happy with that as it is. Just looks like another piece of wood. I guess I could put some more of this spare thing to look like some kind of gunk up in there. Maybe, why not, tar or something that someone's put in there to seal the deal. If anything else gets off the workbench, fills a gap. It dries quite quickly. Now I've put out too much again. Yeah, that's the modelling white putty from AK Interactive. Good for filling holes. Can be sanded down afterwards. massively deep concentration, so excuse the silence, but and also I don't know how exciting it is to watch me build stuff, but that's what I'm doing today, so I thought I'd go live and just have a go. Probably obscured some of the detail on there, but never mind. It's coming off okay. So kind of, this is it. It's done. Except I haven't done the base. That bit's dried nearly down there that I'd put on around to hide the difference down there between the front and back in terms of the two pieces of wood, but they just look a bit weirdly carved on the back, but it's alright. So we have one adventurous base, and as I said, I used this as this is an old Dungeons and Dragons Wizard of the Coast 2017. I like the fact I don't use their bases typically because I'm a sort of guy that uses round-lipped bases for nearly everything. But for a piece of terrain like this that I wanted on a circular thing I could just drop on outside an inn or something, it's handy having it on that base. It keeps it stable. I mean, because it did come with this kind of little tiny slim base that you can see I took apart because I didn't want the whole thing on there. But that probably wouldn't be very stable. If you think it's not much longer than that piece, you're going to knock that over easy. This is a little bit more protected against the old knockover problem. Right. So if I put that there, now what am I going to do? I'm going to try and tidy up first, I think. Get rid of some of this junk off here. Stick it in the bin. Oh, the brazier, yeah, I wanted to put that on there as well. Maybe an odd bit of terrain too. Minutes of clipping and sanding and junk on there. Right, brazier, some little strange skull. Looks a bit like a Skeksis or something, that skull. Large bird brain type skull. I'm going to put that leaning up down there as well as sort of part of the whole layout, along with a little brazier beside it where adventurers could warm their hands whilst taking in the various assignments available to them on the signage. So, base. What am I going to do on the base? I think what I might do is a texture piece and use some green stuff. So I've got some green stuff here, and additionally then I might need a bit of Perspex to mix stuff up on. Which I found. And then I can make some texture. So what I'll do is probably use one of the texture rollers, like this one, from Green Stuff World. So they do a set of these. I've got various of them, and they're very handy for the old rolling out flat bits of terrain and then using the green stuff to sort of imprint. And then I could just cut bits of it out afterwards and lay them on that base, sort of cobblestone style. So I just noticed I've got some splurge of the white stuff putty there, which is just going to get on something else. And some glue, gets rid of that muck. Right, so, well, there's various things you can do with this technique-wise. I'll just find my bits and pieces for it. Be back shortly, in the middle of finding stuff. Not finding the stuff I need, unfortunately, but I've got a good enough view on what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by rolling some green stuff together, and then I'm going to make it flat. So yeah, the classic squeeze together of green stuff. Actually, I think this is getting a bit old, but yeah, it should be fine for just doing a bit of base work. It's not like I need it for fine detail or anything. And then I'm going to use the roller to roll out. So I'll show you the texture on there close up. It's a cobblestone one, this one. Yeah, you can see it looks like it's been 3D printed or something as a main blob. And then they sell these in different styles so that you can roll out your pattern. That's what I'm going to do with this blob of green stuff when it's mixed together for me. Yeah, so this is probably a world first live green stuff tear and squish together. Probably one of the more exciting things. I mean, better than Brexit at least anyway for viewing these days. Try and get it to look green. Purest green. That's technique for you. So I'll zoom back out so you don't get too bored just watching the green stuff squish. Yeah, so this is a bit of perspex. I bought these sheets actually to make 15mm sci-fi terrain from boxes. And my idea was, I shall share it. I mean, it's a bit of a secret plan, but the idea was that I would build 4 sides of a building, put some extra detail on, but leave on the sheet, the kind of plastic. It has like a really thin plastic coat. Leave that on so that after I'd faced it with various bits of gubbins and terrain and pipework and windows, I would leave a window section open. I'd be able to airbrush the whole thing, paint it all up, and then use a knife to go in where I'd maybe left a slit for windows, cut it, peel off the stuff, and then I've got an instant window made of perspex looking through and inside. That's the plan. I've never got around to that yet though. Right, this green stuff is very old. I can see that it's not gone together as good as it could be, and it's somewhat lumpy, but as I said, that's fine. I'm just using it for a bit of a base. So those were equal parts of the 2 colours, but I can just see it's not playing ball in terms of going together very well, but never mind. So the other thing I've got here to hand from Green Stuff World, again non-sponsored, is just a bit of their modeller's Vaseline, always handy to have around. And all I'm going to do is just take a bit of that out of there and put it on to that for rolling, and also put a small amount onto the, or a reasonable amount onto the side of the rolling pin too. And I'll say I'm using a cocktail stick, but really I should just get my hands on there, on that modeller's Vaseline, and smear it around a bit. I can feel that's kind of greasing it up. Ready. Now they also do a flat roll, and really what I should be doing is taking this and flattening it into the perfect piece of flatness before I print the image on it. So I will get my flat roll out to do that. I have an old flat roll somewhere, which was the giant size one, which I used to use, but now I've got a smaller one. It's a bit more petite and easier to use. And it comes with a set of rings, which is what I couldn't find because I hadn't prepared myself properly. And those rings allow you to sort of put it up and then roll to exactly a specific size. The other option is to use a couple of bits of card so that your material is in the middle and you're rolling it to an even size. I'm not going to bother, I'm going to use my eye to do that. Put a little bit more of that Modeler's Vaseline on there. It doesn't need much, it goes a long way. And then pick up the green stuff to roll it out. And you can see how old this green stuff is as some of the yellow in it has dried out. Yep, greasing it up. Yeah, so that's well and truly enough of the stuff. And as I say, I haven't, it's not scientific really. I should be more scientific and get that to just like 2 mil or 2.5 mil depth before I try and imprint on it. And then of course you've got to peel it off, but since I'm not putting a whole layer on here, I'm just going to cut it and then squidge it on. That'll do, as long as I've got a general large amount of it available to me. So rolling in the pattern and seeing that it's already picking it up, but there you go. So there you have a large smear of slightly greasy and soon to be in focus. There it is. So you can even see some of that 3D print textures on the cobbles, but that just makes them look like they're roughened cobbles. You can also see how crappy and old my green stuff is there, because it's got some yellow that didn't make its way in. So what can I do with this? Well, I need to cover this, and I'm not going to roll it on here flat. So I'm going to simply cut it to the size I want and then just squidge the whole thing together. It may not be perfect, but it's going to be good enough for me. So yeah, I'm just going to get this same blade, even though it's a bit of an old blade now, it should do the job. And then cut pieces to size based on a random opinion of mine in terms of just looking at the two shapes. Or do I just roll it on? I might just roll it on, why not? Yeah, some of this isn't greasy enough and it's beginning to stick. Great. Most of it's alright. Okay, we're getting a large bit. I probably should have greased up a bit more of this, but generally speaking it's coming up. But definitely strong tip to grease as much of this up as you can, because you are going to lose it. So, question for me, I think I'm just going to cookie cutter kind of style off the edge of the base and then just fit another sheet on from there. I'll say this is all about doing this quickly and not really giving a damn, so as long as it's on there, not too many fingerprints. That's what you call a fingerprint over here, but and a bit folded up here too. Yeah, so any sort of damage that doesn't... Oh look, I've fingerprinted on there as well, great. I can always salvage that by making it look like a bit of dirt ground. And this section didn't get printed on by the looks of it. Oh, it did, but it's kind of a large piece. Yeah, there's nothing like live experimentation with this kind of stuff to make a mess, but I'm getting it on there. Right, so that piece looks like it will neatly now sort of slot into there in a way. Anybody watching Dark Crystal? That's once you get past the puppet, it's actually quite an interesting story. A little bit Shakespearean at times, which is a bit surprising, isn't it, for Muppets? But I've always liked the original movie from childhood, so I was willing to give it a go on Netflix. Last bit here really, I'll just cut a piece off to squeeze it in there. It's going to overlay, it's going to look a bit messy, but now I'm just going to take a few bits of this and make them into little sausages, just to fill in a couple of the gaps on there, around the sides. And around the back. Get rid of the junk. Cocktail stick. And just roll my little sausages into the gaps there. And use the classic green stuff prodding technique with the cocktail stick to just sort of blend it in with a kind of raised plinthy bit that it's on and make it look a bit like dirt or muck between the two areas, cobblestone and the edge. This bit's got a horrible bit of gunk in there. That's not going to do me any good. and also just in between some dodgy areas of the cobblestone, just bring them together as well. Actually, there's a whole area around the back here where I've got too much green stuff on. And around the front there, that I can just trim that off with the edge of the cocktail stick as well and just give it a clean edge. With my fingernails as well. Cocktail sticks will do wonders, but then they just kind of get mucked up. You need a fresh one. Yeah, I'm feeling like I've nearly finished this now, and I realise I need to put that brazier on. Where is it gone? There it is. I'll wait until everything's dried. Obviously I can't do that now. I'm going to leave this for best part of a day and a half or so for the green stuff to dry off, and then I might squidge this on just to sort of put it in place to make it look like it's been left on the cobbles for adventurers to warm their hands on while they explore the options there. And I haven't put my sausage in there yet, which I need to do, because as I said, this was some crappy old green stuff that I found, and not ideal. Probably been in a drawer for a few too many years, and there are a few hard bits of yellow in there. That way where the boundary between the two edges, the blue and the yellow, begins to sort of harden. Other things I might do once it's dried off is I might put the odd sort of bit of gravel or something on it as well. Just a bit of gap filling there to integrate the resin base that was on this Dungeons and Dragons model base. Some more green stuff bits. Yeah, so there are some areas where I sort of accidentally gave it a bit of a fingerprint, which I can stab at a little bit. But generally I'm going to be happy with the end result, I think, when that's cobbled up. Just seeing some other uneven areas there that could just look like a bit of grass or something's grown up through the cracks on the undergrowth. Oh yes, so when I say bits of gravel, like a couple of little bits of stone or something on here will integrate this even better once it's all done. So there we have it. Stone base. Oh, hello Simon Quinton. One person joined at some point. Maybe has quit by now, but if you're still around, hello Simon. Yeah, I was just doing some going through some old boxes of stuff, and I found this old adventurer sign. So I used some of the green stuff world terrain making bits and pieces that they've got, these cobblestone rollers on some green stuff. The whole not need washing to get some of that grease off it before I spray it. So I've got a brazier to go on there as well, which I may just push on now. But actually I'll probably let the green stuff all dry, wash some of that modeller's grease stuff off there in soapy water, then glue this on as a brazier detail. Probably put a couple of bits of gravel. May put like I've got a little pack of like skulls and things over here. Might put a skull or something underneath there as well. That's like a ram skull there. I'll zoom into that. Yeah, a little set of weird skulls and things. I'll put a ram skull or something up on there too. The whole thing will come together neatly. And I need to go back over and clean up some of that wood where I filled in the join once it's all dried. So right, so how long have I been streaming for now? Just check, because I may take a break and finish streaming now. Just over an hour. So yeah, it's taken me just over an hour to get that thing made up, and I'll call it a moment on there.